morning students. Today I will teach class 9th chapter 5, that is fundamental unit of life. In previous classes you had studied about the fundamental unit of life, that is cell. So here firstly I will discuss about what you had studied in the previous classes, then I will continue with the topic. So here cell is the structural and functional unit of life, or it is the basic unit of life. Robert Hooke discovered in 1831 about the cell. So Robert Hooke saw that the cork that is obtained from the bark of tree resembles the structure of honeycomb consisting of many little compartments. He saw this cork slice from the primitive microscope. Robert Hooke compared these honeycomb with the boxes of cell. So cell is a Latin word for a little room. As living things appear to consist of separate units, the use of word cell to describe these units is being used till nowadays. Here the Robert Hooke in 1665 discovered the cells. He observed the cell in cork slice with the help of primitive microscope. Leeuwenhoek Hooke, with the improved microscope, discovered the free living cells in pond water for the first time. So the Robert Brown discovered the nucleus in cell in 1831. Purkinje in 1839 coined the term protoplasm for the fluid substances of the cell. So in this way, with the different scientists describe the structure and the function of the cells. So firstly we will discuss about the cell theory. The theory that all the plants and animals are composed of cell and the cell is the basic unit of life was presented by two biologists, that is Seligman and Squequin, in 1838 and 1839 respectively. The cell theory was further expanded by Virchow by suggesting that all cells arise from pre-existing cell. With the discovery of the electron microscope in 1940, it was possible to observe and understand the complex structure of the cell and its various organelles. Next, the types of organism. On the basis of number of cells, the organisms are of two types. Number 1, that is unicellular organism, and number 2, that is multicellular organism. So unicellular organisms, as the name describe, uni means one or single. So unicellular organisms are single cell which perform all the functions. For example, amoeba, paramecium, bacteria, Calmodomonas. So second is multicellular organisms. Many cells group together in a single body and assume different function in it to perform various body parts in multicellular organism. What is that? Multi means many, which means many cells group together to perform different function in the body and also form various body parts. For example, fungi, plants, animals. So the cell divide to perform or to produce cell of their own kind. So which means cell comes from pre-existing cells. Cells, some organism can also have cells of different kinds. So the shape and the size of cells are different according to the kind of function they perform. There is a division of labors in cell. What does it means? Some cells like amoeba have property to change their shape. In some cases, shell shape could be more or less fixed. So, the nerve cell have a typical example, which means it has peculiar for a particular type of cell, which means its shape is fixed. Each living cell has the capacity to perform different types of functions. So, the living cell perform basic function. So, here each cell has certain kind of cell organelle to perform different type of function. For example, mitochondria is used for respiration. Also, human body has a heart to pump blood. Secondly, the stomach to digest food, and so on. So, here the cell is able to live and perform all its function because of their organelles. These organelles together constitute the basic unit that is called cell. So, here you had already studied about the type of cells in previous classes. So, types of cells, there are two types of cells, that is prokaryotics or eukaryotics. So, here is a difference, you can easily see difference between prokaryotics and eukaryotic cells, you can easily see. So, prokaryotic cells are the cells of organism lack nuclear membrane, but eukaryotic has a nuclear membrane. Nucleolus is absent, nucleolus is present. So, you can study all the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells by yourself, as you had already studied in previous classes. So, next is difference between animal cell and plant cell. This topic is also had been done in previous class 8th. So, here is a structure of animal cell you can see, or here is a structure of plant cell you can see. So, here is a difference between animal cell and plant cell, that is cell wall is absent, cell wall is present. So, plastids are absent. So, plastids we can study in detail about these two, these the term, that is plastids, centrioles, Golgi bodies, vacuoles. So, we can already studied about, we will study in the next lecture about these organelles of cell, but you have to revise or know the difference between animal cell and plant cell, or eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. So, now we will discuss about some topic. Here is diffusion. So, before studying the cell organelles, that is plasma membrane, nucleus, cytoplasm, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, firstly we have to learn or study about some terms which are very important before going further. So, first is diffusion. So, diffusion is a process, the spontaneous movement of substance from region of high concentration to the region of low concentration. So, what does it means? Some substances like carbon dioxide or oxygen can move across the cell membrane by the process of diffusion. Cell also obtained nutrition from the environment. So, here the substance like carbon dioxide or oxygen can move across the cell membrane by the process called diffusion. So, I will explain this. Some substances like CO2, which is a cellular waste and required to be excreted out of the cell. So, in the cell the amount of this CO2 is high. So, the concentration of CO2 inside the cell is more, and from the external environment the concentration of CO2 or carbon dioxide is low, but the concentration inside the cell is high. So, as soon as there is a difference in the concentration of CO2 inside and outside the cell, so CO2 moves out of the cell from region of higher concentration to region of low concentration. So, this is called diffusion. So, one more example is similarly oxygen enter the cell by the process of diffusion. Here the level of concentration inside the cell is less, but the level of oxygen outside the cell is more. So, due to the difference in the concentration of O2 inside and outside the cell, the diffusion takes place. So, diffusion plays an important role in the gaseous exchange between the cells as well as with the external environment. So, the next topic is osmosis. So, osmosis is the movement of water molecule through selectively permeable membrane along the concentration gradient is called osmosis. So, what does it means? Here the movement of water across the plasma membrane is also affected by the amount of substance dissolved in water. So, osmosis is the passage of water from the region of high water concentration through a selectively permeable membrane. That selectively permeable membrane is called SPM, that is, which allow the water molecules only from region of higher concentration of water to region of low water concentration. The movement of water molecules going through till the equilibrium is reached. Here there is three things could be happen when the transfer or movement of water molecule take place. So, that is hypotonic or hypertonic or isotonic solutions. So, here firstly we have to know about the hypotonic solution. So, hypotonic solutions, if the medium surrounding the cell has a higher water concentration than the cell. So, the concentration of water is higher than the cell, meaning the outside solution is very dilute, then the cell will gain water. So, in hypotonic solution, if the concentration, the medium surrounding the cell has high water concentration, if outside the cell there is concentration of water is high, that is dilute solution, the water will go inside the cell. So, this is called hypotonic solution. So, in this process the cell is likely to swell up. So, in this way the water is added. The medium surrounding the cell has higher water concentration than the cell. So, cell will gain water by osmosis, that is likely to swell up. Next is isotonic solution. So, if the iso means same, if the medium has exactly same water concentration as the cell. So, what does it mean? Water crosses the cell membrane in both directions. So, cell will stay the same. So, no overall movement of water molecule take place. So, next is hypertonic solution. So, hypertonic is when the medium has a lower concentration of water than the cell. What does it mean? Water crosses the cell in both directions, but more water leave the cell than enter it. So, it means cell will lose water by osmosis. So, in this way the cell will shrink. This is called hypertonic solution. So, here the plant cells tend to gain water through osmosis. So, absorption of water by a plant root is also an example of osmosis. So, diffusion is important in exchange of gases and water in the life of a cell. In addition to this, the cell also obtained nutrition from its environment. So, different molecules move in and out of the cell through the process of diffusion. So, here I had discussed about the different terms that is important for the next topic. So, the part of cell, the first I will tell you, that is plasma membrane or cell membrane. So, plasma membrane this is the outermost covering of cell that separate the content of cell from its external environment. So, the plasma membrane allow or permit the entry and exit of some material in and out of the cell. So, that is why plasma membrane is called selectively permeable membrane. So, why it is selectively permeable membrane? Because it also prevents the movement of some other materials. It didn't allow all the materials to pass from the surface or pass to the cell. So, it is flexible, flexible cell membrane enable the cell to engulf in food and other material from its external environment. So, it is made up of lipids and proteins. So, plasma membrane is made up of lipids and protein. So, here we have the properties of plasma membrane. Number 1, it is flexible, that is made up of organic molecules called lipids and proteins. Its flexibility enables the cell to engulf in food and other from the external environment. So, this process is called endocytosis. So, amoeba acquire food through this process. So, here functions of plasma membrane. So, it permits the entry and exit of some material in and out of the cell. So, that is why it is selectively permeable membrane. It prevents movement of some other material not required for cell as it is selectively permeable membrane. So, plasma membrane has different properties and functions. So, here I had discussed only about plasma membrane, that is the cell part of cell. So, in next lecture I will discuss about the different parts of the cell. Thank you.